as per usual. So today in the third hour, we'll be talking with the national president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Dr. DeMarc Liggins Sr., and also Attorney Charles Brooks will join us to talk about what is going on with the legacy of Martin Luther King, the release of those papers, the files, and they're going toe-to-toe with the Trump administration around that, the Department of Justice. And we'll open up the phone lines in hour two, whatever you want to talk about, but you know we got a list. But joining me right now, we're starting off shot out of a cannon. She's the 43rd Los Angeles City Attorney. She was elected in November of 2022, sworn in December, and she's the city's general counsel. She serves as a legal advisor to the mayor, the city council, and all the boards and departments and officers and entities that make up the city of Los Angeles. City Attorney Hydee Feldstein Soto, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be back here with you, Dominic.
Yeah, it's great to see you. I know that it's a really different environment than it was last time we talked in the country, which means, of course, in our city.
It's extraordinary what has happened. 2025 has been a year of multiple challenges on every front. It was not on my predictions or my bingo card to have wildfires on January 7th, to have the budget crisis that we spilled into in March, or to have 4,000 National Guards people and 800 Marines on our streets by June. And that's just the first half of the year.
Yeah. And of course, with all of those things come legal issues, not to mention the ones that we have ongoing before any of that happened.
The primary legal issues with the Trump administration fall into three categories, and we've taken action rather forcefully on all three. The first one is affronts to the city's own sovereignty. Having the National Guard deployed and having the Marines deployed on our streets, having the kinds of tactics that they were using, which are really tactics designed for external force, for warfare, and not consistent with the policies that we enforce or try to enforce on civil and local law enforcement.
I mean, which is the whole concept of posse comitatus, right? You don't use the military on your citizens.
I agree with that 150%. You shouldn't, but it's more than just the posse comitatus. It's also the fact that the National Guard, for the first time, I think in modern history, was called up without the request of local authorities. So this was a federalization of the National Guard. It was not called up by the governor. And, kudos to Attorney General Rob Bonta, because he was the guy who has the governor as his client. He brought a lawsuit in Northern California with respect to the deployment of the National Guard, arguing that the federalization was unconstitutional. He won at the district court level. The city of Los Angeles filed an amicus brief, and we submitted a declaration to help in that lawsuit. But ultimately, the Supreme Court stayed that temporary restraining order. And so the federalization issue has not been decided on the merits. The fight is not over. We are still litigating.
Rob Bonta, for those who don't follow along with all the politics stuff, is the state attorney general. Amicus brief, explain what that is.
That's a friend of the court. The city of Los Angeles did not become a party to the lawsuit in Northern California. And we thought about it long and hard. And the fact was that at that time, in June and July, LA was ground zero. We were really where the Trump administration first deployed the kinds of tactics that they've now been deploying across the country.
Right, which the mayor predicted. She said we're the test case.
And yes, she did. That was her perspective from the beginning. But rather than going to a distant court where people couldn't get to, what I did was I led the formation of a coalition of 22 cities in the county to fight the Trump administration here. We intervened in a lawsuit that was brought by the ACLU and Public Counsel on behalf of living, breathing human beings, individuals who had been subjected to the tactics of ICE, and they can assert their Fourth and Fifth Amendment rights. But we as a city are asserting our own sovereign government rights with control over our streets.
Yeah, and some people were disappointed that the city of LA chose not to be part of the suit that Bonta brought.
It wasn't that we chose not to be. I spoke to I spoke to the Attorney General on Saturday, June 7th, I believe it was. June 6th was a Friday. and he typically does not partner with cities. So our ability to join in that lawsuit was limited. It wasn't something where he wanted to do it collaboratively. Typically, our attorney general partners with attorney generals across the country. And so one of the things that we did in looking at the courts down here is it gives us a better forum. It allows the people to come to court and see justice being done, and it allows us more readily to have our own witnesses in the courtroom. Very difficult to fly a lot of witnesses up to Northern California for a courtroom there. And so I think that it's actually worked out quite well. We have submitted evidence in Northern California, and we have submitted legal briefing, even though we're not, the place where we are a party is down here. We are also a party to about 13 lawsuits at this point against the Trump administration. And it isn't just the National Guard and the Marines. Very happy, by the way, that the Marines are gone, and more than half of the National Guard is gone. The work's not done, but it's far along.
So you said your three areas that you're dealing with the Trump administration is sovereignty, which is kind of where we just went off, talking about the troops on the ground here.
2 is funding. We're trying to protect the grant dollars from unconstitutional conditions, from saying that they won't give us even our block grant allocations, never mind discretionary funding, unless we certify that we're not currently engaged in DEI efforts, unless we certify that we're not doing things to help on climate change. They're trying to effectuate a far-right MAGA agenda through the withholding of federal dollars that they're not entitled to withhold. So we have joined any number of lawsuits on grant funding. And the third area is protection of our communities and our immigrant communities, mixed status communities in particular. And so we have joined the lawsuit on SNAP benefits. We have joined the lawsuit on reproductive rights in defense of Planned Parenthood. We have been very active in the areas that most directly affect the city of Los Angeles and all of our residents.
Okay, so we can go a little deeper into those areas because, interested to hear about these different 13 lawsuits and what that really means, protection of communities, and what can be done on a local level about grant dollars, which is a national problem. I mean, what we're talking about is the usurping of the power of the purse, which is Congress's privilege, Congress's superpower, and those funds are already allocated. So we're not in a budget cycle where they're saying, no, we're not going to ask Congress to approve those allocations. They've already been approved. So what can a city really do? We'll look at all of those things and more when we come forward. Our city attorney is in the building. It's KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
If you've been diagnosed with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, this is what it sounds like to be a million miles away. Imagine being a million miles away. Tremfya guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy. With Tremfya, clearer skin is possible. In clinical trials, at least 70% of patients saw at least 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks. Results may vary. Tremfya is also indicated for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Call 1-800-526-7736 or visit Tremfya.com.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
KBLA Talk 1580 remembers Robin Ayers on the 1-year anniversary of her passing. 1 year ago this week, we lost a remarkable and vibrant voice. Robin Ayers touched countless lives through her passion, her love, her service, and her smile, which you could see through the radio. KBLA Talk 1580 honors her memory and celebrates the legacy she left behind. Robin, your spirit lives on in every conversation, in every connection, and in every one of us, inspired by your voice. Gone, but never forgotten. KBLA Talk 1580, where voices matter.
I'm missing you. Tell me why the road turns. I'm missing you. Tell me why the road turns.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DiPrima right now.
Right now, Los Angeles City Attorney Hydee Feldstein Soto is with me in the studio, and we're talking about, today we said we would focus on what we are doing or what the city is doing to push back on some of the policies of the Trump administration, which seem to particularly be problematic for our city, which is huge, diverse, and has been seemingly targeted. Those of us on these talk radio mics feel that the president is targeting cities with black mayors, and certainly
You're not wrong.
Our city fits that description. But also because of the image of the city, I think, being and the reality being a place where there are a lot of immigrant workers and various communities.
And a city that is welcoming to immigrants, a city that acknowledges the contribution that our immigrants have made to our economy, to our country, a city that celebrates diversity and embraces differences. And that's kind of anathema, I think, to this administration.
So when let's go. I'll talk a little bit about the funding first. When this federal government is withholding funding from the city for basic services or whatever that they're withholding, which is probably money they got from California to begin with, how can they do that based on DEI when DEI is not actually illegal?
Let's take the probably out of it. It is money they got from California. The state of California contributes more to the public fisc at a federal level than we get back.
Yep.
Even in any given year, if you add up all of the allocation grants and all of the discretionary grants, we still are a net contributor to the federal fisc.
Right, which means if we just kept our own money, we wouldn't have these problems. But that's another conversation for another day.
I'm not going to talk secession today.
Right, we're not talking
I may want to, but I'm not going to.
Right, so how can they do that based on things that are not illegal? They're based on policy agendas, right?
The short answer is I don't believe they can, which is why we're fighting the good fight. First of all, the current administration has done this by executive order, and they've done it by putting conditions on grants. There are different nuances in the legal arguments, and I don't really know how much you want me to get into the weeds. I tend to talk like a lawyer sometimes. But there's two kinds of grants, right? One is block allocation. Mm-hmm. That's basically the money goes back to the states. Congress has allocated it. It is done. You can't just dip in and take that back. And you said at the break, and I agree with you, okay, the public budget is very much within the power of the legislature. It is not something that the administration can turn around and do. But if you go all the way back to the first Trump administration, when he was busy calling my birthplace, the island of Puerto Rico from whence I come, right? An island of garbage that was across big water, so he didn't want to deliver hurricane dollars. It's a trick that he tried and that worked in the first administration. Congress appropriated $93 billion for hurricane relief in the first Trump administration. I think less than $20 billion made it there. I don't know what happened to the rest of it. And so if you look at the block grants now, it's the same sort of tactics. He's just doing it. And the only way we know of to stop it is to go to court. That's what we can do. That's my only tool. I don't have superpowers. All I can do is bring the arguments to the court. And what's different this time, Dominic, and what is scary this time, is that all three branches of the federal government seem to have collapsed into one. There is only the executive branch that is acting decisively. There is only the executive branch that is leading the way. There is only the executive branch that is imposing its will. And the usual checks and balances of our government aren't working.
Well, I mean, I guess we could have seen that coming when we saw the way that the Supreme Court was configured, the way that all of the shenanigans that went on to get the supermajority that they now have. And as soon as you have a Supreme Court that hands the president immunity, that kind of sets the tone for the next 4 years.
Yes, it does.
So you say fight the good fight. The city goes to court. We take legal action. And what happens if we lose? I mean, some folks say, well, now you're an even bigger target.
I heard that argument from January through June. And I think all of us did our best to try to hold our breath to see if elections would change things before there was too much damage. But that isn't the way it's played out. We're already as big a target as we can tolerate. This administration is already trying to destroy our economy. They're trying to terrify our communities. They're trying to get our people to self-deport. I don't know how much worse it can get from the standpoint of at some point you draw the line and you say the answer is just no. And you continue to shine a light on it. You continue to make arguments that cannot be ignored. One of the things that terrified me, but it's only so far Justice Kavanaugh, is that in the opinion of the Supreme Court that in effect dissolved the stay over some of the illegal ICE activities here in L.A., Justice Kavanaugh wrote a separate concurrence, which for the first time in the modern history of the Supreme Court approved of, validated racial profiling. It basically says that if you speak Spanish and if you look Latino, guess what? That's enough for a stop and frisk. That's enough to stop and question.
And if you're black and they think that you look foreign, I mean, we know that a lot of the racial profiling that goes on, at least on the left coast, but obviously nationally is targeting black people, and we have plenty of black immigrants. So basically, for whatever purpose they want, they now have the green light.
Yes, and they've targeted Haitians in Florida and Somalians in Minnesota. I mean, it is not limited to Latinos. The 22-city coalition that I formed includes majority AAPI cities, and it includes cities that have African-American mayors or larger African-American populations. So Rex Richardson of Long Beach, I was proud to stand beside him. Art Flores of Highland Park came. Monterey Park was part of our coalition. And so by building coalitions, by building cities, by building across and drawing on our diversity and our unity, I do think that we can continue to resist. I smile at the image of a Southern grandmother in her pajamas holding a gun at an ICE agent on her front lawn to protect her next door neighbor.
Okay, so we were talking about funding, and now you're kind of talking about sovereignty, right? We saw people in Chicago pushing back. We've seen New York pushing back hard, but many of us were asking the question: if the local law enforcement job is to protect and serve us, why are they protecting and serving the military who is being illegally deployed in our city? And then when we protest against that, we're the ones that go to jail. We're the ones that get beat up. We're the ones as journalists who are being attacked by our own law enforcement. They're taking the side of ICE, and no one in city government seems to be pushing back against that.
I'm going to... how do I say this? I'm in the middle of litigation on some of these issues, and I'm happy to talk about the position in litigation. I do think that there are factual differences in a number of the specific instances, and that's not something I'm well versed in. That's what courtrooms are for. Some of what has occurred since June is an escalation of violence at just about every level that needs to be dealt with. From my perspective, and I'm happy to, as you know, I'm always happy to talk about the difficult issues on the table. So rather than dancing around it, I'm happy to talk about to the extent that I can about the LA Press Club case, which is what I assume you're referring to.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the things I'm referring to. I think it's the press have been, attacked, disparaged, and even like people holding a press pass, which you have to get from the LAPD, which, by the way, I think is a terrible idea. I mean, why are the people that have to cover law enforcement required to go to law enforcement to get the permit to cover the law enforcement? That doesn't make sense. That should be in another office. It should be in, I don't know what, but not in police.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that. What I have a problem with is anybody who says I'm a journalist without pre-qualification, without background checks, without clearance, without a press pass, can somehow now get behind this skirmish line in a protest. That is a problem.
I mean, maybe theoretically, but in real life, you're going to get beat up. You might get, supposedly not less lethal weapons shot at you. I mean, it's not like you could just mosey over there. I've gone out with a press pass, which you have to get by going to the LAPD and submitting your information to them and letting them do whatever it is they do until they decide to give you that pass. So there's that. You're talking more like social media people that are kind of freelance, reporters. Now everyone has a mic and a camera, but still it's not something you can just mosey over there and do.
Okay. I deal with laws and policies. I
Right.
deal with what is in writing. Okay. I am not on the front lines. I am not in the middle of the incident to say, yes, you can do that. No, you can't. I'm in the unenviable position, okay? Seriously, of looking at the policies at the front end and making sure that they're written in a way that is constitutional and that protects the right to peaceful protest, while also implementing procedures to ensure public safety and the safety of our officers. So you can say
and the safety of the press, for sure, right?
Yes.
Because, I mean, when officers can shoot rubber bullets at press people and it's no big deal, then we're a third world country. Then we're a banana republic where the press doesn't have the freedom to report what's actually happening on the ground.
Or we are losing one of the most important checks and balances that we have on our system of government. I don't know that it's necessarily third world banana. It could easily be a dictatorship. But wherever we are not in a constitutional democracy, okay? So let's not quarrel about how we characterize it.
Right.
We're not in disagreement on the values or on the underlying substance of it. But again, I want to explain my job. My job is to make sure that the letter of the law is correct, that the letter of the law protects everybody, and yes, freedom of the press, and yes, the ability of the press to have access and report appropriately, and yes, the ability of our peace officers to protect themselves and to protect bystanders and to protect peaceful protesters.
Hold that thought. We've got news, traffic, and sports. Hard stop at the bottom of the hour, but we'll continue when we come forward with our city attorney, Hydee Feldstein Soto, on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Chicago's Black Mayor Brandon Johnson is pushing for a corporate head tax in the city budget, blasting ads against his plan as misleading.
No resident will be impacted by this tax. 97% of businesses essentially won't be impacted as well.
Aldermen propose alternatives like higher garbage fees, liquor taxes, and delivery charges. Baltimore officials report violent crime is down sharply. Homicides dropped 30% to the lowest level since 1970, and non-fatal shootings fell 25%. The city's Black Mayor, Brandon Scott, says November numbers rose slightly but remain well below past norms. And Grammy winner Burna Boy is paying funeral costs for 4 victims of last week's mass shooting at a child's birthday party in Stockton, California. The attack killed 3 children and an adult, leaving 11 others injured. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
In somewhat of a surprising move, the Clippers released veteran point guard Chris Paul. The 40-year-old Paul announced last month that he would be retiring after the season. Clippers GM Lawrence Frank informed Paul that he would not finish the season while the team is in Atlanta to play the Hawks tonight. Paul flew back to LA Tuesday night. Paul played 6 of his 21 NBA seasons with the Clippers. He's the franchise's all-time leader in assists and steals. Paul appeared in 16 games this season off the bench. He was averaging a career-low 2.9 points, 3.3 assists, and 14.3 minutes. Former Lakers center Eldon Campbell passed away early Wednesday morning. The cause of death has not been released. Campbell was 57. The 6'11 Campbell, who grew up in Inglewood and starred at Morningside High School, played 8 of his 15 NBA seasons with the Lakers. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you coughing a lot, especially at night? Are you often short of breath? Are you using your rescue inhaler often? These could be signs that your asthma is not under control. To keep your asthma in check and help prevent an asthma attack, ask your healthcare provider for an asthma action plan. This is a personalized plan you create with your doctor that shows you what to do and what medicines to help control your asthma and to use when you're having a hard time breathing or when you're having an asthma attack. Please don't wait until you're having an asthma attack. Do something about it now. Schedule a visit with your healthcare provider today to make that action plan and take control of your asthma. For more tips and resources on the management of asthma, visit luma-edu.com. This message is brought to you by Amgen and AstraZeneca.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS. Visit lifelock.com. Terms apply.
Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. All investments involve risk, including loss of principal. Options, futures, and crypto trading carry significant risk and may not suit all investors. Securities offered through Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Futures trading is offered by Robinhood Derivatives LLC, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Crypto offered through Robinhood Crypto LLC, NMLS ID 1702840, not FDIC or SIPC protected. Portfolio management offered by Robinhood Strategies, an SEC registered advisor.
The California Crusader newspaper would like to thank all of our subscribers for their support throughout the years, proudly serving the South Los Angeles and South Bay areas for more than 40 years. The California Crusader is a multicultural, black-owned, adjudicated newspaper that focuses on providing newsworthy information to the people in our community. We're constantly looking for ways to assist businesses in our community to connect with our subscribers. We provide low-cost, effective ways to promote your business with our reasonable and affordable advertising rates. You can participate by suggesting, sharing, and submitting your stories on the California Crusader newspaper Community Share Facebook group page, or visit our website at cal-cruise-news.com. That's calcruisenews.com. Then click on the Submit Now button located on the top right corner of the homepage, or text CCN to 42828. Again, text CCN to 42828. The California Crusader newspaper, working together to build a better community for our future. Subscribe today.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
Our city attorney is here, City Attorney Hydee Feldstein Soto. She loves to come in here and talk with me, agree, disagree, and I love that. You know, a lot of folks don't want to come and sit face to face and chop it up. So I appreciate that. And people are so controlling right now. I don't know if it's because we're in the social media era, you know, where any clip can go viral, that they, you know, have all these restrictions. So thank you for speaking freely. And I know some things you can't talk about. So Fine. I'm still going to ask the question. So you were in the middle of responding to my inquiry. It was really about why don't the police protect us from ICE, whether it's the press or the protesters. And that's not how they, while LAPD and the sheriff are not snatching people off the street and kidnapping them like ICE does, they are also not stopping that activity from happening.
It's very hard when you have a federal government that is, at this point in LA, largely protecting federal property. Okay, they are mostly on their own property or protecting what they deem to be federal enforcement activity. It puts our officers in harm's way. The way law enforcement works in this country is they work together on mutual aid. So different levels of law enforcement will assist one another. Unfortunately, when you're talking about, you know, the California Highway Patrol versus the Sheriff's Office versus the federal agents versus the LAPD, it's not realistic to think that they're going to go up against other law enforcement agencies acting in their official capacity. At the end of the day, the solution to that really is electoral politics. It's changing the people directing those ICE agents to act in ways that are inappropriate, unconstitutional, and it's in the courts. We need to get back our courts. We need to get back our judges. And more importantly, we need to develop respect for the orders that our judges issue.
Yeah, well, that part. And I don't know what legal action could make that happen.
I'm trying every
Back
day.
to election.
No,
Back
no.
to electoral politics.
No, because federal judges are appointed for life.
Right.
So that's not an electoral process. What happens is that, as designed, the federal judiciary was supposed to be apolitical. It was really supposed to be about the law and about applying the law with constitutional parameters.
I mean, technically, so was the Supreme Court, right?
Yes, technically. And it has all become incredibly politicized. And any time you inject that kind of results-oriented philosophy into someone who is supposed to adjudicate, right, and not punish. I mean, what the courts are supposed to do is resolve issues that come before them that are real live cases or controversies that can be resolved under the law. They're not supposed to be out there trying to operate in a punitive way or trying to further a particular agenda.
So now you said the work is not done when you're talking about the city sovereignty, the question of whether or not military troops should even be in our streets unless when they're not called upon by the governor, right? It's still, that's not a settled case.
No, it's not.
And we're still looking at the targeting of specific cities, which started with LA, right?
It did. We were ground zero, as Mayor Bass said.
I thought it was very interesting that they were going to San Francisco, and then a couple, you know, there were some conversation, behind the scene conversations with tech bros, and also they don't have a black mayor.
London Breed is no longer the mayor. That's correct.
Yeah, maybe they didn't get that update. And so they backed off that and decided to go to Oakland instead, where guess what?
There's a black mayor. They went to 8 cities, okay? And the 8 cities that they went to all have black mayors. That's not, I mean, that's just a fact. You can draw whatever conclusions you want to draw from it. And if you look at some of the, I don't know what to call it, dismantling of the federal government and the areas that are being dismantled, not all of them, many of the areas being dismantled are disproportionately affecting services and opportunities that are of particular importance to the black community, as well as to Latino communities and other communities of color, but especially to the black community. Historically, education has been a path forward for everyone in this country. But I think the black community, more than so many, have placed, and justifiably so, reliance on the educational opportunities. The Department of Education is almost gone. We were just getting to the point where our health care and our coverage and our research was really taking into account the disproportionate health impacts that some of our policies have had in the black community. And guess what happens? We're dismantling the CDC. We are dismantling all of the expertise that has been built up in that federal civil service. And I don't know how we replace it. I don't know how you get back decades of experience in doctors and in researchers and in scientists once they've gone out and been spread out and gone into private employment. And that is the most lasting damage to me of this administration.
And not one, I mean, is there anything you can do about that from a legal standpoint? I mean, we're saying, well, the president doesn't have the power to dismantle the Department of Education. The president doesn't have the power to, take down all of these USAID programs, et cetera, et cetera. But he does it, and then we have to put the genie back in the bottle.
I'm not going to say no, there's nothing I can do about it. We're actively exploring and looking at everything, okay? There's been a number of novel lawsuits brought. The SNAP lawsuit was not something that was on anybody's bingo card as of 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And we've now joined that. So we are looking at all kinds of alternatives.
And talk to me about that lawsuit. What is the goal of it?
Well, the benefits, I mean, that's for food insecurity. SNAP is the
what
program.
we used to call food stamps. Well familiar. I had them when I was little.
Many people did.
Yeah.
They were not available in Puerto Rico, so there you go.
They don't have SNAP in Puerto Rico?
They didn't when I was growing up.
It
wasn't there. And I'm 67, okay? It was a long time ago. It's a lawsuit where the federal government suspended what I view as one of the most essential forms of aid to our own people.
Right.
I mean, we send food overseas. We send aid,
yeah.
overseas, right? So first he cuts it off to other countries,
right,
and now he's cutting it off inside of our own country. And so the lawsuit really argued, and it's now, I think, going to be moot because they've agreed in budget negotiations, and the budget negotiations restore the SNAP benefits. But come November 1st, there were a number of Angelenos who couldn't count on getting their SNAP benefits. And so we joined the lawsuit because there was specific harm to our city. And we didn't think that the president had the power to redirect. Well, do pay this. We're going to spend extra on overtime for bounty hunters to do ICE activities and bring the Border Patrol up. But we're not going to feed hungry children.
Now, speaking of bounty hunters, how do we stay safe from people who aren't even ICE, that are just posing as ICE?
There's a huge difference in how the federal agencies enforce immigration laws. ICE typically, and the Department of Homeland Security, typically, if you ask them for identification, will provide it. They have it. When you bring up the Border Patrol is accustomed to a very different set of rules. And I shouldn't have used the word bounty hunter because I don't know. Okay, that's really more what I've heard. And I'm not going to adopt a Trumpism that says some people are saying, okay,
right,
and state it as fact.
Yeah.
But certainly when you have massed, armed force for performative theater, whether it's in MacArthur Park or it's outside my window at City Hall East, those are tactics that isn't just ICE. I mean, those are tactics designed to terrify communities. I was terrified.
Yeah. And
hablo español, okay?
Yeah,
Así que y parezco latina.
Right. So, when we talk about the sanctuary cities lawsuit, explain that. They're suing us.
Yes, they are. And they're suing us without any basis, as far as I'm concerned. When the election was occurring in November, City Council, specifically under Council President Marquise Harris Dawson and under Mayor Karen Bass, prioritized the passage of our sanctuary city ordinance. It is it is completely consistent with state law, and it doesn't say that the federal government can't enforce immigration law. Okay, that's not what it does. It doesn't declare secession from the United States and national immigration law. That would not be enforceable. But my office worked with our electeds to craft an ordinance that very carefully toes the line and is clearly constitutional. What it says is we are not going to devote our resources as a city. Remember, we're in a fiscal crisis ourselves, and we're not going to have our limited resources dedicated to doing the federal government's job for them. Okay, we're not going to be helping in the enforcement of the country's immigration laws. That's not our law enforcement's job. That's not our civil servants' job. And so I am very comfortable with the language of the ordinance. All it says is we don't spend our money, we don't dedicate our employees to immigration law enforcement. That is not to say that immigration agents cannot operate in public spaces in the city of LA. Of course they can. We can't prevent that. But what we can say is we don't have to give them access without a warrant to spaces that are not generally open to the public.
I know you're not counsel for the county. The state of California, however, did pass this law that they have to show their faces. They can't that the ICE agents can't cover their faces. And I think, the county is taking a similar measure, but they actually have precedence over our laws, right? I mean, the federal law trumps our law in that sense, doesn't it?
Pun intended?
I guess. Sadly, yes.
I understand. There isn't a federal law, that says that ICE agents can mask up. So no, I don't view it as preemption or as federal prerogative. Congress has not passed a law that says ICE agents have a right to be masked. So it will be a very interesting time when the state law and the federal law come to a head, if they do. I mean, from my vantage point, I think that the state of California is entirely and legitimately within our rights to say, if you're going to carry a badge or a gun or a license to stop and arrest, you must show your face. You have to, our LAPD wears body cameras, for crying out loud. And no, they don't run around masked, except I do understand in protests they wear riot gear to protect themselves. But it's, typical patrol isn't going to run around masked. They don't run around with large rifles, and they don't typically round people up. I mean, when I saw what the federal agents were doing in downtown LA, because it literally, I watched it from my window, it reminded me of, I don't know if you've ever seen humpback whales when they go fishing and they form a bubble net and they kind of go around the smaller fish and then come up and swallow whatever and whoever is there. I mean, that's how the federal troops were being deployed in our streets. It was outrageous.
Wow, time flies when you're on the radio. Our city attorney is here. We said we were going to talk about the Planned Parenthood case. We said we were going to talk about a lot of things. Well, we'll continue this conversation when we come forward. I think for me, the bottom line is the people want to know how we're pushing back. And is that pushback as aggressive as it could be? And so I'm sure you have a lot to say about that and more. Our city attorney is in the building. KBLA, Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
We ask seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Los Angeles Regional Food Bank is on a mission to fight hunger and provide nutritious food to those in need across our community. They partner with federal, state, and local programs advocating for better policies and funding for critical hunger relief programs like Cal Fresh, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program. The food bank works with coalitions and local representatives to make sure hunger is addressed in every district of LA County. They also run nutrition education campaigns, raise hunger awareness, and source nutritious food for distribution, all while supporting regulations that allow food pantries to operate safely. Want to help? Visit lafoodbank.org or call 323-234-3030 to volunteer or find a food bank near you. Together, we can ensure that no one goes hungry in Los Angeles County. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
City Attorney Hydee Feldstein Soto is here. Stein Soto. Let me get it right. Attorney, you have a lot on your plate right now. I mean, and we as a nation and as a city do. But the other thing we said we were going to get to, and I want to make sure we start there because the clock is ticking, is the bills that you wanted to talk about that you have been advocating for.
I am very proud to say that this year I sponsored 3 bills that were signed by the governor. I had a hand in authoring a couple of others, but the 3 bills that the city attorney's office is on as a sponsor were AB 535, which we co-sponsored with District Attorney Nathan Hochman and was authored by Assemblymember Pilar Schiavo. And that bill really took the invitation of the Supreme Court to say that when someone intimidates a witness from testifying at trial, that is in and of itself separate criminal conduct. It particularly helps victims of domestic violence who often are intimidated by their intimate partner into not coming to court and not testifying. So I was proud that that passed. The other one is SB 680, which was sponsored by my office and then authored by Senator Susan Rubio. It closes a loophole that arose out of the work that we've been doing on the trafficking of minors along the Figueroa Corridor. You and I have talked about that work before. And so SB 680 finally says that if there's an adult male at least 10 years older than a 14 to 17-year-old female, he will be treated as a sex offender just as if he were committing anal sex or oral sex. So illegal sexual intercourse now means automatic Tier 1 registration.
If they're 10 years or older.
Yes.
Which I am assuming is meant to exclude high school and school and college kind of.
Or sexual exploration between 2 kids. I mean, we're not trying to get at that. And then the third bill is AB 1299, which was authored by Assemblymember Isaac Bryan. And believe it or not, it grows out of the work that we've been doing on community outreach court. I don't know if I've mentioned to you, in conjunction with Supervisor Solis, Mayor Bass, the Superior Court and the Public Defender's Office, we opened an outdoor court. Because if you think about folks who are unsheltered, their biggest obstacle to getting rid of old tickets and getting rid of their legal problems, which they need to deal with in order to qualify for a number of services and in order to get into housing or job training, one of their largest obstacles is actually coming into a courtroom, leaving their belongings outside, leaving their pets outside, leaving their children outside. And so we formed a group that brought court to the people. And the Community Outreach Court takes place on Skid Row from 9 to noon on the 3rd Thursday of every month. And as a result of that work, we found that we desperately needed an amendment to state law. Tickets, especially old parking tickets, old traffic tickets, because someone goes from housing to an RV to the street. And so often they have thousands of dollars in unpaid parking fines.
For the RV.
Yeah. Or for the car. If they
were living in their car, right?
And so it's all governed by the DMV. It's all state law. And state law didn't permit a local jurisdiction to forgive tickets. You could impose community service or forced labor. You could do an installment plan. But you couldn't just forgive the ticket and give someone a fresh start. And so I'm very proud to have sponsored a bill, AB 1299, that in effect allows a local jurisdiction. It doesn't affect local control. LA would have to opt in, but I think LA will. And it allows us to wipe the slate clean and give someone a fresh start. And those 3 bills got signed by Governor Newsom, and I'm very proud of that work as well. The fact that we're fighting the Trump administration doesn't mean that the work at home stops.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, I haven't done enough, research on those bills to really opine on them, but certainly creating pathways for people to be able to get out from under the enormous debt and penalty that not just for unhoused people, but for people trying to, low income, low resource folks trying to stay in their places is really important.
And that will all come as a result of a local ordinance that we'll be working on. The local ordinance will be the opt-into, but we passed the bill in Sacramento that enables the city to establish the pathway forward for everybody as a matter of local law. Before now, we were barred.
Are we going hard enough at the Trump administration? I've heard accusations that our city's slow walking. These, the pushback that we're not doing enough. What do you say to that?
I would sometimes say, if you ask an alcoholic, are you drinking enough, they'll always say more. There's no winning that argument at some level. We are doing everything we can to be effective, not just aggressive. It's not performative. We are thoughtful in our approach. We form coalitions. We are on solid legal ground, and we move forward in such a way that makes it extraordinarily difficult for the court to say no. So far, we have been victorious. We are in the process of dealing with discovery against the federal government for what they have been doing in the Perdomo case. They've been trying to limit our 22 cities to just 2 representatives at depositions or just a set number of questions. And the fact is that the harm is different for each city. And so we are pushing back very hard to have our seat at the table and to ensure that each of our cities, whether it's Panorama City or it's Camarillo or it's Anaheim or it's Los Angeles, has the opportunity to tell our story and protect our residents in unity with one another.
What do you think is probably the most important issue facing you as city attorney, and that thus our city in the maybe 6 months ahead?
If you had asked me that question last year, I never would have said wildfires. If you had asked me that question last year, I never would have said the budget. So the short answer is I don't have a crystal ball.
You don't know.
When the Russian ballet used to come to Los Angeles, in the mid-'70s, if you look at an American ballerina, American ballerinas dance while spotting. Their head moves at a different speed than their body. It stops them from getting dizzy. If you look at a Russian ballerina, she twirls like a doll on a music box. And someone said to a Russian ballerina diva, don't you get dizzy? And she said, well, yes, of course. And they said, well, how do you dance? And she shrugged and said, we learned to dance dizzy. And so it's a metaphor for me in this job. No matter what I think my day is going to look like, Dominic, I come in and there's 3 gifts on my desk. And sometimes they're full of stars and magic and light. And sometimes they're little bags of dog poop. And I do the best I can to respond.
And yet you love your job.
I feel useful. Do you know how important that is? I feel as if my life has meaning. I get up every day. I have an opportunity to do good. That is my intention every day. And I hope that my actions follow my intention. And I hope that when I make a mistake, I step forward and I admit it. But I do feel useful. I feel energized. And I look forward to the election in November, where we're going to take back the House.
Your mouth to God's ears. City Attorney Hydee Feldstein Soto, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we'll keep the conversation going. News, traffic, and sports, and then more on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Chicago's Black Mayor Brandon Johnson is pushing for a corporate head tax in the city budget, blasting ads against his plan as misleading.
No resident will be impacted by this tax. 97% of businesses essentially won't be impacted as well.
Aldermen propose alternatives like higher garbage fees, liquor taxes, and delivery charges. Baltimore officials report violent crime is down sharply. Homicides dropped 30% to the lowest level since 1970, and non-fatal shootings fell 25%. The city's black mayor, Brandon Scott, says November numbers rose slightly but remain well below past norms. And Grammy winner Burna Boy is paying funeral costs for 4 victims of last week's mass shooting at a child's birthday party in Stockton, California. The attack killed 3 children and an adult, leaving 11 others injured. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The Crohn's and Colitis Foundation has been at the forefront of inflammatory bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn'sColitisFoundation.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
In somewhat of a surprising move, the Clippers released veteran point guard Chris Paul. The 40-year-old Paul announced last month that he would be retiring after the season. Clippers GM Lawrence Frank informed Paul that he would not finish the season while the team is in Atlanta